It's all relative. Hey, well, kia ora, good morning everybody. Thank you so much for coming up here today. It's a real privilege to be in Christchurch for two reasons. One is just to acknowledge that, of course, today is the 13th anniversary of the earthquake, and I know for many families this is always a very poignant day as they think about some of the loss that they've had as a family, but also the disruption and the impact that it had for so many people on their lives and their livelihoods. And so our thoughts and prayers are with those families today as well, and we want to acknowledge that. But of course, we're also here today just to acknowledge the fantastic work that has been done by the fight here on the fire here on the Port Hills. 7 years ago, almost to the day, a similar event happened, and the response that you've seen over the last week and a bit has been absolutely fantastic. And I wanted to come here with Minister Brooke van Velden and also Minister Mark Mitchell just to recognise and to thank and to appreciate all the workers that have gone on and come together here to fight this fire. I think there has been real excellence, and we've seen the absolute best of New Zealand here over the last week. And I want to thank in particular our firefighters who've come together, whether they've been volunteers or full-time, FENZ and their leadership, obviously the police, all the first responders, the support teams, the local council, Selwyn and Christchurch came together and acted in a very simultaneous way, partnered well, police, defence who've done catering. It's just been an incredible work. Local contractors that have got on board and volunteers as well. So we have seen New Zealand at its best here, and I think for the community and for the citizens that have been impacted who had some reservations in fairness after the 2017 response, to see the quality of the response and how it's been proved in that 7 years is pretty special and pretty unique. And I want to say thank you to the residents for following the advice and for being patient and for your support of all the first responders and the firefighting effort that's here. Whether it's been the air, just the air-ground game as you've watched helicopter pilots and fixed-wing pilots, deliver fire retardant and water into key spaces and coordinating with those on the ground. There's a lot that happens, and I think one of our big takeaways is that you can put a lot of people on a problem, but actually they've got to come together and work together as a team and be well led, and that's what we've seen a lot of over the course of the last week. So again, thank you for being here, and most importantly, thank you to everybody that's been involved in this fight back here on this fire. I hope the community feels incredibly proud and grateful for the firefighters and all the first responders and all the support teams that have been part of this effort. It's been phenomenal. You have been a great inspiration, and I think we have some true heroes that are here today as well, and we really appreciate them. With that, happy to take your questions.
And heroes that have been at both the earthquake and fighting these fires.
Yeah.
Crucial to this part of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are actually people who have been here fighting this fire that were also at the earthquake, and there was, I'm here with Vanessa Wienick, who's actually the MP for Banks Peninsula and was actually one of the doctors on the day in Christchurch at the PGC building. And so, we've got people who have been at every major crisis that we've had in this town, and they've done an exceptionally good job. And so, I think, in New Zealand, we should take time to actually say this has been excellence, this has been truly world class, this is us at our best, and we should be really, really proud and esteem and be grateful and thankful for these people, which have done an exceptional job.
As you mentioned before, it's been 7 years since the last
Yes.
fire here. Should there be rules or restrictions around planting pines so close to the city, and also should houses be built so close to the front?
Yeah, look, I'm sure in the after-action review, as there was one after 2017, those are the questions that will be asked, and a lot of conversations already have been around the planting of natives, for example, which are a bit more fire-resistant. But those are obviously decisions where the councils in particular need to get involved in and give that some review and some thought as well. But again, as you know, the nature of Canterbury is that it has very hot, dry summers, and it's largely there's a big part of the landscape that's unavoidable. But what you see is incredible volunteer fire brigades from all over Canterbury, and that's a big part of the operation here. These are people who have day jobs, and they choose to volunteer as firefighters. And I met many of them over here, and their employers have let them come here, fight this fire for the last 9 or so days, and they've done an exceptionally good job. So, yep, there's a reality of the environment that we're in. I'm sure there'll be an after-action review where we'll learn some further things from it, but I think we should be really, really proud of the progress that's happened in 7 years.
In terms of the earthquake, 13 years today, that's it's significant. How do you think that Christchurch is going 13 years on?
Oh, look, I'm really proud of Christchurch. This is my hometown. This is where I grew up. This is what I could consider my home as well. And I know what people have been through at an individual level, having had friends and family impacted as well. And so, I've seen people wrestle with that and deal with all the triumphs and the setbacks that are associated on that journey. But here we stand in 2024, I think incredibly optimistic about the future of this great city. And I think if you want to set up family life anywhere in this country, as I keep saying to a lot of my British friends and encouraging them to move to New Zealand, come to Christchurch, because you've got everything you need and nothing you don't, and a great future in the city as we go forward.
Does the central government not have a role in this conversation around land use?
Potentially, but it's essentially a responsibility for regional councils and for district councils. That's their primary responsibility that they have. But again, I just say to you, we live in a landscape here in Canterbury that is hot and dry during summer, and we've always experienced fires, and it's a reality of what we've got to deal with. But yes, I'm sure councils will look at that further.
Sorry, just wanted firefighting effort's going to cost millions.
Sorry?
The firefighting effort
Yep.
is going to cost millions. Some of that will be picked up by already stretched ratepayers. Is there, or do you think owners of the land where it started should help pay?
Oh, look, I mean, I'm not convinced that's the case. I think, the reality is that, that they are property owners. They've obviously got to look after their own property. Obviously, we've got, good funding in place for FENS and other support services. And that's what we've got to do in central government. Our job is to make sure that central agencies have what they need. In our conversations even this morning, we're talking about, okay, well, how do we keep improving our processes for emergency management? Mark is our Minister of Emergency Management. We were in Napier and Hawke's Bay together just a couple of weeks ago. He was on the West Coast looking at potential floods there a few weeks earlier. And so, we just got to keep making sure we improve and upgrade our responses from all these events that we've been learning from. And that's the nature of it here, right? It's about continuous improvement. It's about taking those insights, learnings, and building better for the future.
In the Adventure Park, this is the second time they've been through it.
Yeah.
They've only just got over the last one, and it's taken a big financial impact on them. Is there any likelihood that the government would help them out?
Well, look, the government did help them out actually to kick-start the Adventure Park, and I met with the General Manager this morning, and she's done an exceptionally good job because exactly as you identified, they opened the park, they got hit with the first fire. They then got going again, they got hit with COVID and the tourism downturn. Just got started again, tourists and the numbers are good in the Adventure Park, and then have got hit with the fire today, this week. The good news is they're going to be open at Easter, and I said I'd love to come back and actually be there for that opening or for around that time as well. So tourism operators are incredibly resilient. They kick-started with support from a previous government or our previous government, and I wish them well.
No likelihood of any more support?
Well, again, no, I mean, not at this point. That's not a conversation that we've had at all. What is really focused on is making sure that what we can do is get them up and running quickly, and the biggest support for them is actually getting demand and getting people at the Adventure Park. So anyone locally in Canterbury, if you want to support them, come along and experience the product once it's available as we get into Easter, and we'll get the international tourists coming back into New Zealand again. You've seen it with the cruise ships into Canterbury. That's been a big part of what's been helping them over the last year or so.
Do you believe the public, slight pivot, do you believe the public supports the moves your government is making around repealing smoke-free laws?
Yeah, look, I mean, the reality is we're not, just so we're crystal clear, we are going back to the legislation that existed just a few months before the election. And that legislation has actually led to a huge drive in our smoking rates. So we've actually gone from 17% daily smokers just 10 years ago down to, I think, 6.8% sitting here today. So that legislation, even in the last year, it actually went from 8.6 down to 6.8%. We've got a smoke-free target of getting to 5% daily smokers. That's what we're trying to drive towards. We're confident that legislation that's driven so much good outcomes for us can continue to do that for us. We just don't believe the model or what the previous government was proposing, which hasn't been implemented yet and hasn't fully taken effect, obviously, that was actually going to be a good outcome. It was going to drive to more crime, more organised behaviour, more organised crime, and certainly more black market. And so for us, we are very committed to lowering smoking rates across New Zealand. We're very fixated and focused on that. The legislation we have had has been well beating, and actually it's been working for us.
Would you consider the devolution of oranga tamariki, so it's a by Māori for Māori approach with local providers?
Well, we are very supportive of that in our government. We believe that in something called localism and devolution, as you know, many iwi do as well. But oranga tamariki has some serious problems. We have a fantastic minister, Minister Karen Chua, who's actually going through all of that now. As you've seen from the Ombudsman's report overnight, there's been a series of reports, and the real challenge is to get the staff to be supported and get the resources in place and the training in place to make sure they follow through on those reports rather than just having a series of reports. We have a huge responsibility responsibility. These are our most vulnerable children in New Zealand, and as the state and as their carer and provider, we have a massive responsibility, which I know the Minister and our government takes really seriously.
Speaking of vulnerable children, what do you make of the latest child poverty statistics out today?
Well, more work to do. I mean, you saw 3 metrics go backwards in quite a big way. That is partly why we're saying, we want to get the economy moving. We've got to get people off welfare and into work, because that's much better for those children and for the families if they've got one parent or both parents in work. And we've got a lot more work to do to get people, particularly children in benefit-dependent homes. That's something we're very focused on as a result.
How big a priority is then if it's not even in the coalition document?
The coalition document is a coalition agreement. It's not everything that we're doing in government. We are determined to get people off welfare and into work. When we do that, we know the outcomes for children in those homes and those families is infinitely better. So that's going to be our focus. We are very committed to child poverty. I sat down with the CE of Ministry of Social Development and the Minister just last night to actually have a discussion about broader agendas and what we need to do to get those goals happening. So certainly, getting people off welfare into work, certainly getting children out of benefit-dependent homes into work-dependent homes, and working towards those child poverty goals that are legislated and that we're going to be continuing to work very hard at. We'll do that job.
Are you concerned that your welfare policies are going to disproportionately hit those children?
No, not at all. Not at all. We've been in a really obscene situation in the last 6 years. How on earth do you have low unemployment, lots of worker shortages everywhere across this country, and we put 70,000 more people on welfare? And the sad thing is, and I'm not being apologetic about it at all, because we're on the side of right here. You cannot have those people on 70,000 extra people on job seeker benefit now on average on a main benefit for 13 years. That is not good. We have 2,000 young people that are on youth payments, and they're predicted to be on welfare on average for another 24 years. Our government is we're not going to tolerate that. Why? Because we care about those young people. We love them. We want them to have a great potential. We want them to be able to realise all their dreams, and it ain't going to happen on welfare. And when I sit down with young people who've got creativity and ambition and a spark about them, that's not going to be realised sitting on welfare. So we have to make those interventions. And that's one of the perverse legacies of the previous government. How on earth do you create an opportunity where there were so many job vacancies at a time we could have moved people off welfare and into work, and we got a perverse outcome.
So what are the immediate key priorities for reversing these stats?
Yeah, so there's a whole heap of things that we have to do. The first thing that we're doing, as you're seeing in the first few months, is to make sure that everyone understands the deal, which is that a vast majority of people receiving benefits do. We're just saying to those people that are on job seeker benefit, forget about those that are on what's called supported living or sole parent benefits. They're deemed as being able and capable of working, either now or within a 2-year period. And so we have to do everything to get them off welfare and into work, particularly while we have opportunities that we want to be able to get them into our economy to be able to deal with that. So we're just saying very simply, if you've got obligations. New Zealand is a place built on rights and responsibilities. We will always have a fantastic social safety net system in place, but with that, and you get a right to access that when you need that support, but equally you have a responsibility to hold up your obligations. And so we're just saying to everyone very clearly, I'm sorry, but there will be sanctions. If you don't hold your obligations up when you're on a job seeker benefit, your job is to go find a job, get a job, prepare for a job, train for a job. And if you're not showing up for job interviews, I'm sorry, we are going to move through sanctions. Those sanctions already exist in law, have done for many decades, and we're just going to make sure that they are enforced so that we actually can deal with that side of it. Then the big opportunity is really for us to put in place what we call social investment, and that's the thinking that Bill English had developed and we haven't actually put into action, and we want to see that come into action, which is identifying vulnerable folk that actually need more assistance, more help, more wraparound services, actually better targeting, using the data to actually identify what it is that they need and those families need in order to be able to step up and to be able to move forward. And so we are not prepared to welfare. And when we live in a country where 55% of our kids are not at school regularly, where we've seen a huge growth in under 25s going straight onto welfare, and then we see the projection is that they're on there for 24 years, meaning they're 40 years old by the time they actually get their first job, that is an outcome we are not up for, and we have to do better than that. And you can talk about kindness and caring and a whole bunch of words, which we saw over the last 6 years, but it is not good enough to consign people to that life, and that's what we're going to do something about it.
Sorry, sorry to go backwards.
Yes.
This week, Casey Costello finally apologised to Parliament over her repeated denials about seeking advice on freezing tobacco taxes. Has Casey Costello fallen short of the standards you expect of your ministers?
No, I mean, she came out with her statement, I think it was yesterday or the day before in Parliament. Importantly, having spoken to the Minister, she's very focused on actually delivering on our smoke-free targets and lowering smoking rates across New Zealand. And as you saw, one of the very first actions we did as a Cabinet was actually increase the excise tax. So, that was one of our first decisions in our very first and early meetings. So we are very focused on lowering smoking rates. But what we're not up for is we don't believe the previous government's approach was the right approach. We just think, frankly, when you're limiting distribution in the way that you were, you're creating huge amounts of risk around ram raids and crime, and more importantly, you're driving into a big black market. So, we are determined. The ends are the same about going after lowering smoking. The means by which we do it are different, and we disagree with how the government approach was before.
Do you believe she's been truthful, Casey Costello?
Yes, I think she is. Yes, and I think she's very determined to lower smoking rates, which is what I care about, and I know what she cares about.
What do you make of the war of words between Auckland Airport and Air New Zealand? Do you support Air New Zealand's call for an inquiry?
Again, those are decisions for those two commercial entities and the Commerce Commission to work their way through it. So, as you see, there's a review that the Commerce Commission is running right now. It's inappropriate for us to comment. It's important that the independence of the Commerce Commission is respected and that they are the best place to make the decisions about how the pricing regime should be.
You've got some history here, some skin in the game though. Did you run into similar difficulties?
Well, I'm no longer the CEO of Air New Zealand. I'm Prime Minister of New Zealand, so I'm focused on making sure I rebuild the economy, restore law and order, and deliver better health and education. But I trust the Commerce Commission to work through a process that's fair to both parties and find a way through.
The development of Christchurch's Metro Sports Centre, Tabikiwari, is kind of stalled, and the developers are in court asking for more money.
Yeah.
What do you know about the issue, and also what are your thoughts on it?
Look, sorry, I haven't been briefed on that. I know there's a lot of projects that are happening here in Christchurch. I'm obviously focusing on the stadium and making sure that's happening in some big way. I unfortunately don't have enough knowledge about that one to talk to you about that.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Awesome. Can I say thanks again for coming out, and appreciate you spending some time with us. Take care. See ya.
you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.